All right. Hello and welcome back to the Canadian Research Roundup. It's Friday, November 21st, 2025, and we have a jam-packed week for you. We're talking about Canada shooting for the stars, a massive global fight for the best and brightest minds, and, you know it, some really eye-opening stuff happening in the world of cybersecurity. And hey, just a quick note before we really dive in, we are so excited to be doing this in full video now on both Spotify and YouTube. So if you're listening, you can now watch along with us, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's get to it. So the big story this week really is this huge contradiction. It's kind of wild. On one hand, you've got Canada making these massive, ambitious bets on future tech. We're talking big money. But then, on the other hand, this bombshell report drops, basically screaming that the very foundation of our country's research is in trouble. So what's really going on here?
Okay, let's kick things off with what I'm calling Canada's innovation paradox. Because honestly, we saw two huge pieces of news this week that feel like they're from two different planets.
First up, the big, shiny headline. Check out this number. Over $500 million. That's what Canada is pumping into the European Space Agency. We're talking a tenfold increase here. The whole idea is to just supercharge our space sector, get more Canadian tech up there. It's a massive statement, right? A huge vote of confidence that we can hang with the big players.
But then, talk about whiplash. The very same day, this drops. A brand new report from the Council of Canadian Academies, and the warning could not be more blunt. Canada is falling behind. Our global competitiveness? At risk. So you see the problem, right? We're aiming for the moon, but this report is basically saying our launch pad is cracked and crumbling.
And when you dig into the details, it gets really interesting. On the plus side, we have some major strengths, right? We've got a super educated population, and our universities are pumping out great research. But look at the other side of the coin. Our R&D intensity is one of the lowest in the G7. Business investment, it's actually shrinking. And get this, our universities are having to cover more than a third of the total research costs themselves. So the takeaway is, we're fantastic at creating new ideas, but we're really struggling to fund them and actually turn them into businesses.
But you know, it's not all doom and gloom. Even with this kind of worrying national picture, there are these amazing pockets of success. You just have to look at Quebec's quantum sector. There's a company in Sherbrooke, Nord Quantique, and they just made it to the next round of a huge US defense program run by DARPA, and they're up against giants like Google and IBM. It just proves that even when the system has challenges, if you make smart, targeted investments in key areas, like quantum, you can still build something that's truly world-class.
You know, all this talk about big bets on future tech leads us perfectly into our next topic, the double-edged sword that is artificial intelligence. Because AI is another one of those areas where Canada's going all in, but wow, the story is complicated. And a perfect example of this is Cohere. You've probably heard of them. They're one of our biggest AI success stories, valued at almost $7 billion now. They're being held up as this pillar of Canada's AI sovereignty strategy. But here's the catch. While Cohere is proudly Canadian, it is deeply reliant on American partners. For example, they're using the US company CoreWeave to build a data center. That's getting Canadian public money. And their relationship with the, let's say, controversial US surveillance firm Palantir is making some people pretty nervous. So it begs the question, right? Can you really build true technological independence when your foundation is built somewhere else? But look, no matter where the tech is coming from, it is already completely changing the game for researchers. A new global survey just came out that shows how baked in AI has become. Just look at this. Research staff are using it for pretty much everything. Finding funding, editing grants, managing data, you name it. This isn't some far-off futuristic concept anymore. It is a tool they are using every single day.
And the potential here is just staggering. I mean, truly mind-blowing. Google DeepMind has an AI called Alpha Evolve, and it's now solving these incredibly complex math problems, stuff that would take brilliant humans years to crack, and it's doing it in a few days. This isn't just about making things faster. This is about fundamentally changing the speed of human discovery itself.
But here it is, the other edge of that sword. That very same survey that showed everyone's using it, it also uncovered some deep anxiety. A full 60% of research office staff see AI as the #1 threat to research integrity. The fear is real. They're worried it's going to replace critical thinking, make academic fraud easier, and just devalue the whole scholarly process. It really comes down to this massive balancing act. How do you use this incredible power responsibly?
And of course, all this talk of innovation, AI, space, none of it happens without brilliant people. Which brings us to our third big theme this week, the absolutely fierce global war for talent.
And to see how serious this is, just look at what New Zealand is doing. They've just rolled out this brand new and, frankly, pretty radical policy. Starting in 2026, if you're a researcher and you create something with public funding, you get the first right to own it and commercialize it yourself. This is a total game changer. It's designed to empower the innovators directly, give them a real stake in their own success. And you can bet that's going to be a powerful magnet for talent.
Meanwhile, some other major players seem to be shooting themselves in the foot. The U.S. just saw a jaw-dropping 17% drop in new international students this fall. A 17% decline. And what are the top reasons? You guessed it, huge visa delays and this growing sense among students that they just aren't welcome there anymore. I mean, for a country that was built on attracting the world's best and brightest, that is a serious self-inflicted wound.
And it's not just the US. It seems to be part of a bigger trend. The UK and the US are both, for different reasons, putting up new barriers. In the UK, they've made it much harder for students to bring their families. In the US, the State Department is cutting dozens of top universities from a key research program because of their diversity policies. All these moves create uncertainty. And you know what that does? It could send that top talent looking for other options, which could be a huge opportunity for places like Canada if we play our cards right.
Okay, so this global competition, it's not just about who has the best perks and policies. There is a much, much darker side to it. For our last section, let's turn to espionage and the cyber threats that are targeting our research and our governments.
So, cybersecurity researchers have just found something they've pretty much never seen before. This is a really big deal. It's a direct collaboration between state-linked hacking groups from Russia and North Korea. You've got Russia's Gamma group, who are all about spying and getting geopolitical intelligence. And now they're sharing tools and infrastructure with North Korea's infamous Lazarus Collective, who are basically financial criminals stealing crypto to fund the regime. When you combine those two motives, spying and stealing, you get a threat that is way more dangerous and way more unpredictable.
And this threat is getting incredibly personal. It's not just about attacking networks, it's about targeting people. MI5 in the UK just put out this urgent alert about a Chinese campaign that's using fake LinkedIn profiles to try and recruit parliamentarians and government staff. And these are the red flags they're telling people to watch out for. Unsolicited messages from fake recruiters, really vague offers for consulting gigs, offers of cash or crypto, and requests for off-the-record chats. It's a slow, patient, and very calculated way to try and get an insider on the hook.
And these concerns now go right to the top of the corporate world. A newly declassified memo from the White House is making some really serious allegations against the Chinese tech giant Alibaba. The memo claims the company is actively helping the Chinese military, providing things like cloud services, sharing user data, and even tipping them off about zero-day software exploits. Now, for their part, Alibaba completely denies this, but it just shows the immense pressure governments are under to make sure their critical digital infrastructure is secure from any kind of foreign influence.
All right. So we've talked space, we've talked AI, the war for talent, and straight-up espionage. After all that, what is the big takeaway this week?
Well, I think it's this. The whole game has changed. This global innovation race, it's not just about being the fastest anymore, or about who can throw the most money at a problem. To win in the 21st century, you have to be the smartest and the most secure. It's this incredibly delicate balancing act. You absolutely need that groundbreaking innovation, but you also need a rock-solid research foundation, a secure digital world, and a smart plan to get and keep the people who make it all possible.
And that brings us right back to where we started. You know, as the world just hurtles forward, is Canada's strategy, making these big, flashy bets on things like space and AI, is that actually going to be enough to win? Or are those foundational cracks we talked about in funding, in commercialization, in retaining our talent, are they going to cause us to stumble before we even get close to the finish line? That is the multi-billion-dollar question for all of us to think about this week. Thanks for tuning into The Roundup.